Hey, what's up, friends? Ray with Docket Timworks. How y'all doing? So I got this chunk here of silver maple. I cut it on the bandsaw. It's about 13.5 inches round. My idea is I want to turn a charcuterie board. I haven't seen anybody do one. I'm sure somebody's done it, but I think it might be a good thing. So it's silver maple. It wouldn't be good for a cutting board, but a charcuterie board, it should be just right. And that'll be plenty of surface area to put salami and, you know, meats, cheese, fruits, all that. My idea is to turn it like a platter, but just leave the top flat. I did, oh, that's probably a 1/4 inch deep recessed mortise. Okay, so what I got here is I've got my Technitools ProTech Supernova 2 with the 50 mil 2-inch jaws. Recessed mortise drilled with a Forstner bit. You know what? We'll bring the tailstock up. Kind of jam it in there. And now we'll tighten it up. Loosen it and then tighten it. And I'm going to go pretty tight on this because it's not a dovetailed recess. It's a straight walled recess. And we are definitely going to make sure we have tailstock support. All right, let's fire her up and see what she does. Start out slow, pick up speed. Kind of blowing out that backside. Let's see if we can get through some of this cracking. There's a little bit of checking right here. There's still a little bit rough here. That's kind of too small a tool rest. Pretty good. You can see these little angel hair ribbons that I'm getting off that shear scrape. And that really cleaned it. We got a little bit here, but that really cleaned it up. That's sandable. And I don't know if you guys know what this is, but this is my knockoff of Tommy's refiner. I made this out of Amazon steel. You know, I just bought a cheap piece of Amazon steel for like 10 bucks, 15 bucks, I can't remember. And then I put a profile, kind of like his refiner, put the little notch in there for rolling beads. And then, you know, it's thick. It's good 3/4 inch. And then I rolled and really rounded this corner here, this leading edge corner, so that I can get in there and shear scrape and roll it easily without gouging up your tool rest. So that works really good. And then what I did was, I guess this is shows you where my influence comes from. So then I also raise a burr with this carbide rod, and this is a burnishing rod, and I also got the idea from Tomislav. So this is a little bit long. I've been thinking about cutting it in half right here, because you really only need this much, you know, to be able to roll a good burr with your scraper. You know, you hold it here and kind of just right here roll your burr. So that's what I'm using. That surface came out probably as good as I'm going to get. Ooh. It's got to be done. Okay. All right, so we got the sanding done. We're gonna put some first step on there. And so we need to finish this bottom because once we reverse this, we can't come back to it. So, if you don't know what Axe's first step is, it's Acks Woodpaste. Tom Ackley is the founder and the maker of it. It's tung oil and wax, and it lets you get the wax or the tung oil into the wood before any sealers or anything else. So if you want the tung oil to get in and penetrate the wood, this is what this is for. Because sometimes further steps in the finishing process will seal the wood and you won't get the penetration that you would want of a penetrating and polymerizing oil. That, and it lets us see what we're working with, huh? Well, silver maple can be a pain in the butt with its tear out, that's for sure. But it can also be quite beautiful. It looks like it's got some of the typical green kind of mold that's typical in our area here in southeast Michigan. It gets kind of annoying. You can see it kind of through here. It's not ambrosia. That's separate. But it is what it is. You can't sand it away. You can't cut it away. It just doesn't go away. There's nothing you can do about it. It grows in the wood, and it's not surface. It's throughout the whole piece of wood. So it just adds character, and it's just not boring plain maple anymore, right? We got some nice figure right around here. Our local silver maple is usually pretty good at that, getting some nice figure in it. And yeah, we'll let this soak for a minute. I'll probably let it soak for 20-30 minutes. I haven't eaten breakfast yet or lunch or anything, so we'll let it do its thing. But that's kind of a premonition of what we're working towards. This will be heavy, but it's not a wall hanger. I intend it to be a charcuterie board. And it's a work in progress. I haven't figured it out completely yet, but if you can see, it's got kind of a soft bead there. This should let you get your fingers up underneath it to pick it up and carry it without need for handles on top. It is my thought process. There's enough room underneath for you to get a purchase. Because the last thing you want to do is fumble around and drop your charcuterie. Or at least that's the last thing I want to do. I'm fat, I want to eat. Alright, we shall return and continue on with Axe's three-step process. So this is the first step, pure virgin tung oil, right? Alright. Alright, let's get back to turning. So, I had a break, ate some lunch, got off my feet for a minute. So, as you can see, the first step is set up, and now I'm just going to burnish it off with a paper towel. Nothing fancy. You know, you can see that it glossed or glazed over, and the wax set and the oil's gone in, and it's done its thing. So I usually just like to burnish this in just a little bit before I do the abrasive paste. All right, so that's pretty much what that piece is going to look like. So like I said, it's got some nice figure right out here in the sapwood. It's going to be pretty cool. All right, so we'll just take the abrasive paste and we'll just work it into the piece. You know, this simulates sanding up to the higher grits like 1000. It's food safe, it's natural, it's just a grit. a frangible grit, which means, you know, as you work it in, it breaks down and gets finer and finer and finer and dissolves. And it's food safe, and it's just in wax and oil. That's also food safe. So it's, you know, abrasive paste in Acks, especially because he, you know, Tom really stressed that he wanted it to be food safe and natural for wood turners, because, you know, a lot of times we're making these on food intended items. So I like it. I appreciate it. And it's small business and it's American made. So I really like to support him when I can, showcase his product. And, you know, if you go over to his website, axwoodpaste.com, and use code DACA15, you'll get 15% off your order. So, you know, shop American, shop small, and, you know, wood turning finish, buy a wood turner. So this stuff is fantastic. It in its own right is a beautiful finish, and really you don't need anything more than it. And you can hear the grit in there just kind of breaking down and working away. And what it's doing is it'll take away those final scratches that you had at the higher grits, at 320, 240, whatever you decide to stop at. This will get it away. And it's also putting oil and wax into the wood at the same time, polishing and making a really nice finish. And you keep working this in until your paper towel comes out clean. A little bit goes a long way. More often than not, put too much on. But that just means you gotta just spend a little more time working it in. No harm, no foul. And I'm at 700 RPMs right now. And what I do is I just keep folding the paper towel over and over and over and working it in on itself. So new paper towel is exposed and we're not using the same grit over and over again, or we go back after the grit's already been done away with. We bring back bigger grit into the equation. So, you know, like there's clean paper towel. So let's go back into it. And as you can see, most of it's gone by now. It doesn't take a long time. It's really a fast finish. Get into that corner of the recess where these beads make a connection. So we still have a little bit of wax on there. We just find another clean spot and keep going. Or, you know, just get a new paper towel. I'm probably going to go 2 coats on this just because I want it to look pretty sharp and smooth. This is, you know, a new idea I'm playing with. And I think, you know, it's a large surface area with large, you know, it's large is what I'm getting at. So, I mean, you can catch imperfections. So I'm going to put another coat on. But, man, it feels great, looks great. When the light just catches this figure out here, it looks awesome. I love it. Down in here, you can still see it. The chatoyance coming through. You know, it's a natural finish. It's not super shiny. It doesn't look like plastic. I'm kind of picky about that. I'm working with wood, and I like my project to look like wood. If I wanted to work in plastics or stuff like that, I go work in ceramics and glazes or acrylics and all that. But I'm working in wood, and I want it to look and feel like wood still. So I keep my finishes simple. It's usually abrasive paste, wax, and or oil. I like the hard wax finishes lately. but I also just like a good abrasive paste. Sometimes I'll go back and put oil on it. Sometimes the oil will absorb, sometimes it won't. So, but I'll go ahead and put the carnauba polish on, so it probably won't get any oil afterwards. Plus, I let this sit for a good amount of time. Usually I'm impatient and only let the first step sit 10-15 minutes, but the first step got a good hour soak this time, so I'll probably just go straight to the carnauba finish and get on to the front of this piece. So it's clean. And then you always want to start with another paper towel too when you move on to the following step, so that it's fresh and clean and you don't bring any abrasive into your polish. Okay, so this is the third one, polishing and restoring wax. And so it's a heavy carnauba based finish and wax. And so it takes a lot of friction to get this wax up to heat. It's got the highest melting point of the natural waxes. I'm not sure where microcrystalline and the other stuff, the synthetics, sit in, but it's got the hardest shell and the highest melting point of the natural waxes of, say, you know, paraffin, which I don't know if that's considered natural or not. Because, you know, paraffin and mineral oil are petroleum products. They're refined oil. So, but out of paraffin, beeswax, and carnauba, or carnauba, however it's spelled and pronounced. I call it carnauba. So we'll get that in there, and you kind of got to get it cooking. So we're going to put the RPMs up to 1,000. I do like the smell of the melted carnauba. It does really smell good. You can see it just gloss right up once you get it melted in. Yeah, that is mighty fine looking. When the sun or the light just hits it right, you can really see the chatoyance right here. I don't know if it's the same, my angle versus the camera's angle, but it looks pretty cool. Down in here too. All right, well, let's see how we do. I'm kind of excited because I get to use for the first time my new Vicmark chuck. So since upgrading to this bigger lathe, and I now have the potential to work on bigger projects, I've upgraded to a Vicmark 120 and a Vicmark 150 for the higher gripping strength. This is my first use of it. Got one in with me, okay, in my pocket. I'm going to bring this guy up and slam him home. Oh, I don't know if I'm going to keep much of that rim. I went down pretty deep. Oops. I was afraid of that. Yep. We may be having a little bit of design change. So I'll loosen this back up just a hair. Tighten that up snug and then expand out. Crap. Oh well. We'll see how she runs. I'll start down slow since we got a new hold. And bring things back up. Grab my face shield. And let's see how bad I didn't screw this thing up. And I think I'm going to lose the whole rim. Maybe if I do a slight taper inwards, I could save it. Not quite sure. I've got some goop or something on there. Maybe shellac or something. But I'm hanging up as I slide across. Well, it just is what it is. I'm going to have to come off of this. Enough. Oh, so yeah. What to do? Do we just keep it like that? Kind of just tapered inwards? It's not a bad taper. I said it would keep olives inwards. I would like a better finish. That's not bad. Pretty sure it's better than it was. Yeah, that's a lot better than it was. Let's hit it with the first step. I just rubbed this into my hands. It's just tung oil and wax. I'll be right back. All right, let's finish this boy up. So let's burnish in that first step. All right, let's get the abrasive paste on there. Okay, let's see how this goes. My memory cards are dying. I haven't been maintaining them. You know, maintenance ain't fun. Turning's fun. I don't think I've ever seen a YouTube video for a charcuterie board yet. I don't know why. They're super popular. And then you don't have a bunch of, you know, badly made, cheap Chinese furniture, you know, that they normally put on them. You know, some cheap 50-cent bracket to pick it up with. Forget all that noise. Now, if I knew a blacksmith, a local blacksmith, and he handmade me some accessories to put on there, I'd do it. But I don't, so right now it's all just turned. Let's see what this looks like. This is the top. I might go one more coat just because it's the top. And that's what everybody's going to be looking at and paying attention to. But you see that figure in there? You know, silver maple can be a little bit on the boarding side, but when it shines, it shines. I'm going to put one more on just because I can. So like I said again, I'm going to dig my thumbnail in there. To those little mini V-grooves I put in. Because I don't want the abrasive paste hiding out in there either. And coming out into the polish. Now, what I like to do on my maple bowls is a friction burn on the rim. So we're going to give it to this platter too. Oh, it's wanting to cut through. It's too sharp. I don't know if more speed will help it or detriment it. There we go. Just a little bit of contrast out there. All right. Fresh paper towel for the wax. All right, friends, there it is. All right, friends, so there we have it. This is my take on the charcuterie board, version 1, Mark 1. We'll see where we go from here. I doubt that this will be my final iteration for going into like a production type on it, but it's a good starting point. Thoughts? Don't finish this before you come out here and do this. But that inward taper isn't bad because, like I said, if it was for olives and grapes and stuff like that, it would keep it inwards. So, there's the back. You know, as you can see, I tried to blend in the expansion or you know, the recess, expansion recess, you know, with some beads to kind of camouflage it. It's really nice looking. It picks up and holds well. You know, you can come up underneath it while it's sitting on the table, and you don't need to take away any of your realty up here on the top. But not all maple has to be sugar maple. You know, the silver maple looks good too. Oof. All right, so thanks for checking it out, friends.